Times when Marge Simpson cheated on Homer. Yes, she did. The first time we saw Marge interested in another man instead of Homer was in the 9th episode of the first season called Life on the Fast Lane. It's Marge's birthday. Bart and Lisa decide to surprise her lovely mother by preparing breakfast in bed for her. As they set up the surprise, Homer, being Homer, mistakenly thinks it's his birthday. However, he soon realizes he has completely forgotten Marge's special day. In a rush, he dashes downstairs, jumps into his car, and heads to the mall. While there, he spots a bowling ball and suddenly comes up with an idea to surprise Marge. Spoiler alert, this is probably going to be a fucking terrible idea as always. Meanwhile, Marge is chatting on the phone with her sisters, Patty and Selma. Back at home, Homer is busy hiding Marge's gift when she tells him about their dinner plans at the Singing Sirloin with the kids and her sisters. Later at the restaurant, Marge feels delighted by Lisa's creative card made from dried macaroni and glue inspired by the Mona Lisa. Art's gift of French perfume also brings a smile to her face. She appreciates their efforts to make her birthday special. However, when it's time for Homer to present his gift, Marge is shocked when a bowling ball lands on her cake, complete with drill holes and Homer's name carved on it. Everyone was stunned by Homer's irresponsible behavior. Meanwhile, Patty and Selma watch with subtle smiles, knowing that Homer has been thoughtless to their sister again. Marge is understandably furious, reminding Homer that she has never been bowling and that the ball is personalized with his name. Instead of acknowledging her feelings, he admires the bowling ball and suggests that if she doesn't want it, he would be happy to take it. Bro basically gave himself a gift on his wife's birthday. Fucking legend. Later at home, as they prepare for bed, Homer attempts to justify his choice of the bowling ball. Marge isn't convinced and suspects he only bought it for his own use. And it was actually true. In a moment of resistance, she decides to learn how to bowl just to annoy him. Homer realizes that his plan for a new bowling ball has backfired, as Marge is determined to master the game to teach him a lesson. The following day at Barney's Bowlerama, Marge finds herself bowling alone, feeling a bit lost about what to do. A charming man with a French accent named Jacques, who is in the lane next to her, approaches and offers to give her some bowling lessons. Flattered by his attention, Marge accepts, even though Jacques seems to have a romantic interest in her. Meanwhile, Homer is busy at home fulfilling his role as a dad by ordering pizza for dinner and tucking the kids into bed. Later, when the house is quiet and everyone is asleep, Marge returns home. She mentions to Homer that she plans to go bowling again the following night, which raises his suspicions, though he keeps his thoughts to himself. Bro is very innocent. The next evening at the bowling alley, Jacques surprises Marge with a personalized wrist guard for bowling, complete with her name stitched on it. The flirtation continues, and Marge is clearly having a great time. Afterward, Jacques drives Marge home and invites her to brunch the next day. When she sneaks into bed late, Homer's suspicions resurface. And do you know what he did? He chooses to remain silent. Later, during brunch with Jacques, Marge appears anxious about being seen with another man. And Helen Lovejoy, the Reverend's wife and a notorious gossip, drops by to chat. Marge's discomfort grows, and when Jacques invites her to his apartment, she faints. While she's unconscious, Marge dreams of their meeting at his place, where she and Jacques, dressed elegantly, share a dance. Just as Jacques leans in for a kiss in her dream, Marge awakens to find Jacques gazing into her eyes, and she agrees to see him again. At home in the bedroom, Homer stumbles upon Marge's wrist guard and his heart sinks with worrying. Bart enters and asks Homer to play catch. However, while they're in the backyard, Homer is too lost in his thoughts to focus on the game. Bart starts to panic, realizing that Lisa was right about their parents' troubled marriage. Bart then advises Homer to keep quiet about the situation with Marge, hoping it won't escalate. We've got a son giving relationship advice to his father before GTA 6. The next morning, as Marge prepares the kids' lunches, Homer compliments her sandwiches and expresses his belief in being open about feelings before heading off to work. Marge is moved by his sincerity. Meanwhile, Jacques is at his apartment, gearing up for his meeting with Marge, clearly intent on making a strong impression this time. Back at work, Homer is too distracted to enjoy his lunch, clinging to it as the last connection he feels to Marge. Meanwhile, Marge is driving towards Jacques' apartment, and as she travels, she notices several couples deeply in love, which makes her think about the idea of a lifelong commitment. When she reaches a fork in the road, one path leading to Jacques and the other to Homer at the power plant, she finds herself torn between the two. And she chose Homer. Meanwhile, Homer is feeling down at work. I mean, what else does this innocent soul do, right? Marge then unexpectedly enters and taps him on the shoulder, and that touch was all Homer needed to erase all his depression in an instant. Filled with joy, Homer takes a brief break and sweeps Marge into his arms, heading to the back seat of his car for a moment together. I swear, man, if Marge hadn't taken matters into her own hands and chosen Homer over the guy she was starting to enjoy spending time with, this dumbass wouldn't have done anything to save his marriage. Moving on to number 2, we have Heartbreak Hotel, the second episode of the 30th season. It begins with the Simpson family enjoying a reality TV show called The Amazing Place, hosted by Tag Tuckerbag. Bart and Lisa encourage Homer and Marge to audition for the upcoming season. Eventually, Marge, tired of their non-stop requests, tells them to knock it off and reminds them of their past failed auditions.
What have I become?
Baby, you gotta tell him sometime.
Tell us what?
Lisa then makes a video at Springfield Squidport, where auditions are happening. Bart and Lisa even include clips of Marge and Homer's rejection letters for the producers to see. Later, back at home, Marge checks the mail and, together with Homer, finds out that they've been chosen for the show. Unfortunately, in the first trial, Suitcase Stowaway, they lose right away and get shell eliminated. However, they can't leave for 6 weeks, as the producers don't want anyone to know who was eliminated early. So they're stuck at the Courtyard by Airport Hotel, keeping the results secret from everyone, even their own kids. While Marge feels down about being away from home, Homer is enjoying the perks of their stay. He manages to lift her spirits, even as the kids are busy digging a pool back home. However, when Marge stumbles upon the post-production room, she learns that instead of winning, Homer indulged in a chocolate bar he found among her belongings, which leaves her feeling frustrated.
The one who screwed up. You are!
I'm so sorry. I know you're gonna need some space, so I'll sleep on the couch.
Straight to the point. In a black and white scene, Marge encounters the couple eliminated in the 5th week, and she playfully flirts with Nick, making Homer a bit jealous just before the next day. At this stage, a couple has the chance to rejoin the competition, but they must swap partners with another couple in the dead weight drop to participate in Mango Tango, and Marge chooses Nick. Marge ends up messing up by forgetting to follow step 2 of the challenge, which is to salt the rims of the cocktail glasses. Because of this, they lose and head back home. Homer even replays Marge's mess-up speech on repeat to annoy her. In the end, The Amazing Place has its first ever gay winners. Later, Marge, Homer, and the kids relax by watching Anger Watkins and Skip Angry's Anger vs. Angry show together.
What are you talking about? We both picked the Phoenix Suns to win it all.
Our sons are dead!
No!
Just another classic happy ending for The Simpsons. At number 3, we got Every Man's Dream from season 27, episode 17. It starts by showing Homer falls asleep right in the middle of a crisis at the nuclear power plant, resulting in his hospitalization. A spinal tap reveals that he has narcolepsy, giving him a medical excuse to avoid activities because of his condition. But instead of using it properly, he starts using this excuse to nap and avoid his responsibilities. Marge becomes frustrated and tells Homer to go get his narcolepsy medication from the pharmacy. At the pharmacy, Homer finds 4 senior citizens ahead of him in line. Realizing it will take a while, he decides to go to Moe's Tavern. He comes back home smelling like beer, which shocks Marge. She plans to take Homer to family counseling, but instead of offering help, the counselor suggests they spend some time apart and even mentions divorce.
The only way you and Homer will ever be happy is to spend a little time apart, followed by more time apart, followed by a divorce.
What?
Wait, what's going on? Wait, no. I remember. Happy anniversary.
So Homer leaves the house and starts living at the nuclear plant. Lenny and Carl tell Homer that Marge has changed her status too,
It's complicated.
and also changed her voicemail to use her maiden name, Marge Bouvier. Homer then heads back to Moe's and gets a call, but it's not from Marge. It's the pharmacist calling about his medication. While picking up his meds, the pharmacist, Candace, takes Homer on a date and drugs him. This leads Homer to make the one mistake he had never made before, sleeping with someone other than Marge. Candace and Homer begin dating and enjoying various activities together. Candace introduces Homer to her father, who is now in a relationship with, well, Marge. Homer attempts to persuade Candace that her father, a pharmacist, isn't a great guy, but he ends up proposing to Marge, who agrees once her divorce from Homer is finalized. Just then, Candace shares the news of her pregnancy with Homer, but he suddenly wakes up in the counselor's office, realizing it was all just a dream. Inspired by his dream, Homer decides to improve himself for a month. He manages to make some progress, even getting Lisa to try meet and encouraging Maggie to speak. However, he soon finds himself waking up at a bar on a date with Candace. Overwhelmed by the realization of what he has lost, Homer rushes back to the Simpson home, where he sees Marge having dinner with Bart, Lisa, Maggie, and, oh yeah, Candace's father. This sight drives him into despair, and he breaks down in tears in the front yard. At that moment, Lisa opens the door and reassures him that nothing can tear them apart since they are family. However, she quickly goes back inside. Homer, feeling completely hopeless, screams a heart-wrenching no. Marge suddenly wakes up, realizing that it was all just a dream. She decides to take Homer back for their family checkup, just as she's about to share the answer to their marital issues. It turns out that the therapy is actually a tattoo on a girl's back that reads, "Don't get drunk in Brooklyn." Moving on to the fourth one, called That 90s Show. It starts showing a winter day, where the Simpson family finds themselves shivering in their home because Homer forgot to pay the heating bill. Bart and Lisa search through an empty box, hoping to find something to fuel the fire, and come across a diploma from Springfield University that belongs to Marge. Both she and Homer are taken aback to see it again, sharing with their kids that it dates back to their dating days, before they tied the knot. After doing some quick math, like considering Bart is 10 and their parents are nearly 40, the kids come to the realization that their parents didn't get married and have Bart until much later in their relationship than they had assumed, at least a decade after graduating high school. When Bart asks Homer and Marge about the gap between their high school graduation and his birth, the couple opens up about one of the more challenging times in their relationship, the 1990s. In the flashback, Homer and Marge are enjoying a joyful romance while living in an apartment at Springfield Place. Marge loves to read, and Homer is part of an R&B group with Lenny, Carl, and Luke. One morning, Marge wakes up to the exciting news that she has been accepted into Springfield University. Homer is surprised by her admission and wonders why she hadn't mentioned it earlier, which she actually had, but he misunderstood. However, he is soon disappointed to find out about the high tuition fees. Feeling sympathetic towards Marge, Homer decides to give up his dream of being a musician and takes a job at his father's popular laser tag warehouse, where he faces mistreatment from both the kids and his dad. At Springfield University, Marge is fascinated by her new surroundings and the rebellious professor, Stefan August, even though Homer doesn't approve. Well, Homer really was a caring boyfriend back then, you know? In the current moment, the repairman shows up to fix the heater and offers to share the tale of his lost love. But Marge continues with her own story. As time goes on, Marge finds herself drawn to August. And while accompanying Homer after a tough day, she realizes her feelings for her professor. Marge starts engaging in conversations with Professor August, who has developed feelings for her as well. August begins to sway Marge's thoughts by suggesting that Homer, being just a townie, wouldn't truly value her intelligence. Suddenly, Homer walks in and catches them together, leading to his frustration. In response, he decides to refresh his R&B group by adding a new grunge sound. They rebrand themselves as Sadgasm and perform a song titled Politically Incorrect.
Was much white love stress.
Feeling upset, Marge and Homer ultimately decide to end their relationship, and Marge chooses to leave with Professor August.
Will you sign my
Yeah.
Homer visits Moe, who now runs a cigar bar. After receiving no assistance from Moe, Homer decides to perform a new song titled Shave Me, which skyrockets his fame, leading Weird Al Yankovic to create a parody called Brain Freeze. Meanwhile, Marge shares a kiss with August, marking his first and her second. As they run onto the beach, August expresses their differing opinions on marriage, resulting in a heated argument that leads Marge to end their relationship, leaving him heartbroken. Feeling down, Marge watches TV and is taken aback when she sees Homer has written a song for her called Margarine. Breaking news segment with Kurt Loder reveals that Sadgasm has disbanded and that Homer is isolated in his mansion, feeling miserable. When Marge arrives, she mistakenly thinks Homer is using drugs, but soon discovers the needles are actually for his diabetes. They reconcile, and Marge takes care of him, apologizing for her past behavior and acknowledging that it was Homer who helped her pursue her education. Marge tells Bart and Lisa that she realized, "Homie is where my heart is." Homer then shares that being back together makes him too happy to feel grunge. As they kiss, older August walks by with his dog outside and remarks, "Townies." Last but not least is The Way We Was, the 12th episode of the second season. It begins with the TV breaking down, leading Marge to tell the story of how she and Homer first met. The scene shifts back to 1974 during their senior year of high school. Homer was not the most responsible student, unlike Marge. One day, after attending a feminist rally and burning a bra on school property, Marge found herself in detention for a day. Meanwhile, Homer and Barney ended up in detention for 3 days for smoking in the boys' restroom. When Homer saw Marge walk into the detention room, he was instantly delighted and wanted to ask her to the prom. But he faced teasing from Artie and the teacher. Eager to spend more time with her, Homer decided to join the debate team that Marge was part of. However, Marge had her sights set on the intelligent and eloquent Artie Ziff. In a bid to get closer to her, Homer pretended to be a French exchange student so he could receive tutoring from Marge. When the moment arrived for him to invite her to the senior prom, she initially said yes, but then pointed out that he hadn't actually taken French. Feeling upset, Marge slapped him and stormed off. Even after their argument, Homer still thought he'd be the one taking her to the prom.
What?
The following day, Marge, exhausted from lack of sleep, struggled with her debate team responsibilities. Later, Artie asked her to the prom and she happily accepted. On prom night, Homer showed up at the Bouvier home to pick up Marge, catching her family off guard. After facing some harsh words from Patty and Selma, Homer felt a pang of regret when Artie arrived to take Marge instead. Despite this, he was determined to attend the prom since he had already rented a tuxedo, booked a limousine, and paid for their dinners. At the event, Homer had a rough time, from being the only one in a prom photo without a date to watching Marge and Artie being crowned prom king and queen and sharing their first dance. Heartbroken, he stepped outside during the dance and cried in the hallway. When Marge came to check on him, he expressed his belief that they were meant to be together. Although Marge felt a bit sorry for him, she firmly told him he was mistaken. Later, Marge and Artie left the prom for a more private moment, but she felt uncomfortable when Artie tried to get too close. After she insisted he'd take her home, he wished her a good night and asked her to keep quiet about his inappropriate behavior. Meanwhile, Homer's limousine time expired, forcing him to walk home from the other side of town with little money. As Marge approached her house, she overheard her parents, Jackie and Clancy, arguing about how rude Homer was and how fortunate she was to have gone to the prom with Artie. Realizing her mistake, Marge got in her car and found Homer walking along the road. She offered him a ride and admitted that she wished she had gone to the prom with him instead. Hearing this, Homer confessed he was a bit scared because, "Once you stop this car, I'm going to hug you and kiss you, and then I'll never be able to let you go." And that's exactly what he did. Homer wraps up the tale by assuring the kids that he will always hold on tight, and he joyfully hugs Marge. Lisa finds the story heartwarming, while Bart, being Bart, felt disgusted. And those were some of the times Marge had drifted away from Homer. Comment your thoughts and subscribe for more videos on The Simpsons.